Who is Shakira? Shakira is the feminine version of Shakir, which means grateful in Arabic. Before all, I am a woman of God. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, sister, friend, and a boss. Shakira, Shakira, Shakira. That's me. And this is my story. Transitioning to high school, we moved again. And looking back, I realized that my mom was always moving us to move us towards better. It was never like we were going from one bad situation to another bad situation. Like we were always progressing. So we moved again when it was time for me to go to high school. Not immediately, because the school district that I was in was a part of a program called No Child Left Behind. And pretty much what that meant is um your school is in a low income community and you get to choose what high school you want to go to. So I had two choices of high schools that I could choose between, Sprayberry and Hillgrove. So I chose Hillgrove because that's where like all my friends were going, and that was like kind of more in the community, like where I would know people. So I chose to go to Hillgrove, and we stayed in our same home for a little bit of time. And they had a bus that would come to the local Kroger. Like your parents had to get you to the Kroger to catch the bus to get to school. So for like a year, my mom was doing that, or I would catch a ride with my friends so we can go catch the bus at the Kroger and then get to school. And then after that, she was like, okay, this is not working. We found a house that was in the school district and we moved there, and we stayed there up until my senior year of high school. So going to Hillgrove High School was a big change. It was different. It was one of the newest high schools in Cobb County, but it was a good different. The teachers were very engaged with our learning. They wanted the best for the students, and a lot, like I said, a lot of people who were in the No Child Left Behind program, they came there as well. So I already like knew people. So I was always that honor roll student. I made straight A's because nothing else was acceptable in my house. Like my mom, she did not play any games. She wanted to make sure like academics came first. Like that was very, very important. And although I had made mistakes in the past, like my grades were still on point. Um, so being at Hillgrove, I was very involved as well. I was a part of different clubs and organizations. And like I said, I ran track. So it was a good time. It was good. But when I was 14, after I made that huge mistake, I realized like I wanted to start working so that I can like also earn money. Like, because I wanted to have a car, like to drive to school as well. And especially like just, it was a hassle. Like we gotta go drive here and then get on a bus here to go to school. Like it was just crazy. So I was like, I'm gonna get me a job. I'm gonna start saving money so that I could just drive to school. So that's what I did. At 14 years old, I started working at Cobb Human Resources office, had me a nice little corporate job. I thought I was like doing something big. Mind you, I was only like the admin assistant, but it was so much fun to me because I love working. Like I'm a very hard worker. And y'all, minimum wage at the time was $5.25. I remember that. It was $5.25, and I remember getting a small little raise, and it was like to $5.85. So, like I said, I've been working for a long time when minimum wage was like nothing. But during that time, it felt like a lot to me because I was in middle school, transitioning into high school. So that was like, okay, you got a little change in your pocket. You doing a little something, something. So I worked there, and then after I worked there, I started working at Six Flags, and Six Flags is where I worked for a couple of seasons. I worked there for a couple of seasons, and I was able to save up my money, and I was able to purchase my first car, which was a Volvo S70, And y'all, that little green car, it was everything to me. Okay. Like, I was the first one in high school to have my license. I was the first one to have a car. And when I tell you, like, me and my friends, we would load up in that car and we was going to all the parties. Okay. We was living life. I thought we were doing it big. So, yes, I bought that car. And we was all around Cobb County. Like, when I tell you I lived my life, I lived my life. So we were probably going to parties that we probably wasn't supposed to be at. We was at the club, Maria Bonita, Texano, all those clubs in Cobb County back then. They're definitely not here anymore. But y'all, we was having a grand time, and I was Uber before it was Uber. And I would just tell them, like, they would just, help me put a little gas in the car and we'd be out of here. But that was like one of my first big accomplishments. Like, I felt so proud, like, because of everything that I had been through in my early years. I was able to transition it and, continue with my hard work ethic and save up money to buy a car. Like, that's a big deal. Like, most of my friends, like, their parents, like, bought their cars. Like, I just knew that I was always different. Like, I always stood out. Like, I was never able to fit into like any box or any people or any circle because I was just doing different things. Like, I was always just in my lane, minding my business, like not trying to be with the in crowd or this crew or that crew, like just doing me. So yeah, that was high school. Um and like I said, I was always focused on my grades and my studies. So I had made a goal for myself. I was like, I want to graduate early. Like, I want to graduate early so I can continue to work and earn more money because coming from the projects is like poverty. So, like, money is your motive in the beginning. It's like we need something different, and money was what was going to solve it. So, I was like, I'm going to keep working. Like, I need to graduate early. Like, this school stuff not for me. Like, I want to go to college because I wanted to break generational curses, and I knew that I wanted to be the first one in my family to do that straight out of high school. So I knew that I was going to go to college, but I was like, I need to graduate early first so I can work for, a semester before I go to college, because I didn't know at the time if I was going to be able to work full time and go to school full time. But y'all, God is so good. And I don't know the strength that he has given me, but I graduated early, and once I graduated, I continued to work. I worked full time at Sprint. I worked at Sprint for 4 years, and I also like climbed the ladder there, the corporate ladder, as people would say. And it was good. Like, a lot of the skills that I possess now, I realized that my whole life had been preparing me for this moment. So I worked at Sprint full time. When it was time to graduate, I went back, I walked and all that good stuff across the stage, took my high school pictures, but I just knew, like, what's the point of still sitting in these classrooms when I'm smart enough, I got the grades, like, I can be finished early. So yeah, like, I worked at Sprint full time, and then I was supposed to go to my dream college was always Spelman. Like, I knew that I wanted to go to Spelman, like, since I was a little girl, because it was an all girls school, it was a private schools in Atlanta, and I wanted to pledge. And I remember looking into the numbers, like when I got into 11th, 12th grade, like preparing for, my college applications and things like that. Shout out to my favorite teacher, one of my favorite, my second favorite, Miss Blackman. She was amazing. She is like the one who like helps you prepare for college and helps you write your essays and stuff like that. But we started looking into schools, and I started looking at those numbers again, y'all. This money, I'm looking at this tuition, I'm like, where this coming from? Like, my mama cannot afford to send me to Spelman College. And of course, like, there was scholarship opportunities and stuff like that, but it would not cover the full tuition. So I kind of felt like that wasn't the option for me anymore. So then I started looking at other schools. I was like, well, I still want to kind of go to an HBCU so I can get that experience. And then I was like, okay, Albany State University. That's not too far. It's like right up the road. My mom and I, we went on a college visit there, and y'all, it was not it. Like, it was still so country back then. They didn't even have like a Walmart in town. Like, I'm pretty sure they have a Walmart now, but back then they did not have a Walmart in town. It was just country to me, and it was a little too black. Like, I went to a predominantly white school, so it was just like a lot of black people. Like, I knew what HBCU is, obviously, but it just was country and black. And I was like, this not really giving me the vibe that I'm trying to go for either. And I was like, no, that's not it. So we came back home, and I was like back at the drawing board. So then I was like, what can I do to make this the most seamless process and fastest process? Like, my life has always just been fast. Like, I grew up before my time. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to a 2-year college and then transfer to a university. So it'll be cheaper. Number one, because I told y'all money was the issue. So that would have been cheaper for me to go that route. And then, I would spend less time at a university. So I ended up looking into Georgia Highlands College, and that's where I went for my first couple years of college, and I got my associate's degree there in communications. And I was very involved there because for some reason, like, I'm just always volunteering to do stuff. Like, I just like to stay busy. And mind you, y'all, I was working full time. Like I said earlier, I don't know where the strength came from, but God gave it to me very early on. And I was working full time, going to school full time, and I even lived on campus for my first year to get that experience, because I knew, like, I wanted to have that experience, but I also knew, like, dorm life wasn't for me either. Like, I do not want to be sharing my space with nobody. Like, I'm very, like, OCD when it comes to certain things, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I met a lot of cool people there. And I was in my high school relationship still, thought I was in love again. He had went to another college that was like right down the street. So, we were kind of close to each other. But once I graduated from there, I went to Georgia State University, and that's where I received my bachelor's in journalism with a concentration in media broadcasting and a minor in sociology. So I went there, and I was still working full time. Always been working full time, y'all. Your girl just been working, been hustling. So I had got an apartment. Like, after that first year of living on campus, I was like, this is not it. Like, sis need her own space. So I've only lived in 2 apartments. I remember my first little apartment, y'all. It was so small. Looking back at it, it was super small, but it felt like home. And then I moved to another apartment, which was like next door to the first apartment. And after that apartment, then me and my brother moved to a townhome on Booth Road, which is still in Marietta.
Yes, we did fight a lot, but we also was close. My mom, when we did fight, my mom used to always like make us sleep together, or, just make us spend time with each other. I always have to go with her somewhere, or, we just have to spend time together when we was upset with each other. So, we'll get over it.
And I was like, I'm not living in no more apartments. I'm not renting from nobody else. Like, I'm buying me a house. Y'all, I'm still in college saying this. Like, literally just manifesting my life. Just speaking those things into existence that I wanted to see happen for myself. So, as I'm still going to school full time, I'm working full time, I got this apartment, and now, like, my brother is living with me, y'all. I'm literally taking care of my brother. It's been a ride. Taking care of my brother and literally just living day by day, just trying to figure it out. And looking back, like, I don't regret any of it. Like, it really has shaped me into who I am today as a mother, as a boss, And just seeing that I was able to overcome obstacles and challenges that society would say that, oh, she's not supposed to be here or she's not supposed to be doing this. Like, I was able to overcome those things. So looking back, like, it really has made me like fearless. It has made me like, change means nothing. Like, you gotta adapt. You gotta know how to pivot. Hard times are gonna come. And, you know, my next biggest accomplishment when I graduated from Georgia State University, I was like, I felt like I made it. Like, my mom made it. And that was like the first generational curse that I broke, because I was able to transition straight from high school to go to college and receive not one degree, but 2 degrees, and work full time through the whole time. So that's really big for me. When I was at Georgia State my senior year, I did not know what was going to come next. Like, that's kind of just how my life has always been. I never really know what's going to come, but I have so much faith, and I know that God would never lead me in the wrong direction. And I'm a strong believer that he already knew the plans that he had for us before we were born. So I just always said God's timing. Like, you can ask anybody, I would always just be like, I don't know what's next. God's timing. So I remember I was in one of my last classes in my senior year of college, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm about to do after college. Like, do I keep working here, or do I, like, am I gonna be able to work in my field? Like, how am I gonna transition? I thought I was gonna be on the news, honey. Like, I thought I was gonna be on somebody's radio. Like, I didn't know what it was gonna look like, but I just knew. Like I said, from a little girl, I was performing, I was doing all those things. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So one day, this girl came into our class, and she started talking about a program called Teach for America. And I had never heard of that. And she just started talking to us about it. And I'm the type of person, I'm like, let me go do my research. So she talked to us about it in class that day. That evening, I went home and I started looking up, like, what is TFA? Because that's what she kept referring to it as. That's the acronym. And it stands for Teach for America. So when I looked into it, and it was like, you basically can become a teacher right out of college. They place you in a certain city, and you teach to low poverty schools. So I was like, okay, this sounds like something that may be my cup of tea. Like, I always said I want to help people, and I, love being a teacher. But I didn't know that it would look like in a classroom. Like, I knew I would be teaching people. So I was like, let me just try it out. Let me see what they're talking about. So I completed the application. I did the whole process. This is, like I said, my senior year last semester at Georgia State. So I did the whole interview process, and I got accepted into Teach for America. And once I graduated, I knew that that's what I was going to be doing. It's a whole like institute you have to attend to get like the training and stuff. Like, even though you didn't go to school for like education, they would like give you training, and you would have to go through different things and do like student teaching in classrooms and stuff like that. So once I graduated from Georgia State, like, I basically had like a month that I was able to take off. And y'all, I graduated and celebrated in Miami. Went to Miami for my graduation trip with my best friend at the time, my boyfriend at the time, and her boyfriend. And y'all, that was a trip from hell. But I came back and I got to work. I knew that, like, I don't have time to play out here. So when I got back in June, we got started with Institute for Teach for America, and pretty much like I was just locked in. I had to complete all my courses and all the pre-work and do the student teaching and stuff like that. And I was placed in Atlanta, right here, hometown. And I was able to stay here because, like I said, the program, like, they will place you in different cities, but you get to choose like your preference, and Atlanta obviously was like my first choice. So thankfully I was placed here, and I got to do that. And then I was placed at a school in South Fulton, Randolph Elementary School. So many memories. and that was going to be my school, and I was going to be teaching first grade. Like, I literally got everything that I said that I wanted to get, like, going into the application process. Like, you get to choose, like, 3 grade levels, like 3 regions that you want to teach in, like stuff like that. So I said Atlanta. I said I wanted to teach first grade, and I was able to get all that. The power of manifestation. You put it out there into the universe, and God is gonna make it come through. Okay, so um, so I got placed there, and in August I was teaching. It was like I was put into a classroom. Like I said, I did not go to school for education, but all the stuff that we did over the summer basically prepared you for the classroom. Prepared you, because you're never really prepared. Okay, like, you got to be in the setting to get the hands-on experience. But when I got there, I met BV and Evan.
I met Shakira in 2017 at Randolph Elementary. We both were first grade teachers. She was the self-director, so anything that needed to get done, she didn't wait for anyone to ask her to do it. She went on ahead and did it.
Me and BB came to Randolph at the same time. Evans was already there, and we are all still really good friends to this day. But y'all, Evans was mugging. Like, I was so nervous and intimidated. Like, I'm a fresh out of college student, and got this, older people. Like, when you think of teachers, you think of like people who have been doing this for a long time. Like, back then when we were in school, you would think your teacher was living under a rock, like she wasn't a real person, like, or something. But everybody starts from somewhere. But Evans was, much older than me, and she was just like, had this mug on her face. I was like, oh no, this is not gonna be good. Like, she already don't like us. And she probably looking like, where did this young girl come from thinking she about to teach? But nonetheless, like, that is like my second mother. Like, she's literally old enough to be my mom. Her and my mom were around the same age, and she like took me in as like a mentor slash daughter, and she just taught me so much. And it was just like, that experience alone was crazy. Oh, why am I crying? But just being in a classroom with 30 plus kids, little kids, looking at you every day to figure out what you gonna teach me, what we doing today. It was like almost like I had to have myself together, but they didn't know, like, Miss Moody at the time was going through her own stuff. But it was such a beautiful experience. I gained so many relationships throughout that experience, became so close to so many children. And yeah, like, some that I'm even still very close to today, who are like in middle school, which is crazy, high school. Whew, y'all, I'm getting old. But that was a really great experience. It was very profound, because even my principal at the time, like, a lot of people, probably, how it is, don't like their boss or think that their boss is this and that. But me and the principal, we kind of like had like this relationship where I understood her and she understood me. And it was like I was a sponge. Like, I was just soaking up everything, no matter how hard I felt like it was. It was like, it was preparing me for something that was bigger than the classroom. It was bigger than just teaching these little babies. So, whew. So yeah. That's how I kind of just got my feet wet with, like, being in front of people, little people, and teaching, and having to prepare lesson plans and lessons for them every day. And it was very hard. I had very hard days, very hard moments, times where I felt like giving up. I felt like what do they call it, the imposter syndrome, like you don't belong. But it was so crazy. Like, I owned my classroom. My kids, they latched onto me so well. And I remember my principal saying, like, you sure this your first year teaching? Like, your class is always so together. Like, your lessons are so put together. Like, the classroom discipline is together. Like, everything is just so good. She was like, there's tenured teachers who don't even have it together like this. And just those words of encouragement by itself allowed me to keep going. Because with Teacher America, there is a 2-year commitment. And y'all, it was plenty of times within that 2 years, I'm like, this not for me. Like, I cannot do this. Like, God help. But I was able to keep pushing through, and I accomplished it, and I taught for 3 years. So that is really another huge accomplishment that I'm so proud of. And in that time of just transitioning from, college and becoming a career woman, I also knew that I wanted to buy a house. Like, I wanted to break another generation of curse. Like, the only person that I knew that owned property was my grandma, and she's literally lived in that same house my whole entire life. But even my mom, like, to this day, has still not owned a home, and that's something, like, I knew that I wanted. So during the transition, before I took on this teacher role, like, I knew I needed to get something, to set my foundation. So I bought my first home, my starter home. Yeah, that was my first big girl purchase. Like, I bought my car, and like I told y'all when I was in high school, but that was like, it wasn't like big, like a house big. So this was like, okay, girl, you really out here making moves. So, and then I also bought my dream car that was on my vision board from 2015. Power manifestation, visualization. You got to put it on the paper and make it plain. Y'all, I had a Mercedes CLA 250 on that vision board since, I said, 2015. And I knew that's the car that I wanted. That was like my dream car. And it was very small and compact. I was like, it's enough room for me and my purse to be riding out, okay? So I was determined to get that car. So when I started teaching and I'm making a little salary, that was some money to me then. I'm like, okay, I'm making a little something. I came to work. I told BB and Evans, I'm like, yeah, I'm about to get me a new car. Like, this is my car that I want right here. Let me show y'all what it's looking like. They're like, you about to get that, Mama? I'm like, yeah, girl. Like, this is the car that I want. So I have been looking around at dealerships, and then I looked into Mercedes dealership and found somebody who, was a salesperson. He was able to help me get the car. I got my dream car. So I had my dream house, my dream car. I was like, your girl is living out here. I got a whole career, making an annual salary. Like, I felt like I was on my ish. But it didn't stop there. Like, I never stopped dreaming. Like, every dream just kept getting bigger and bigger. And it was like, I just kept saying God's time and God's time. And like, I don't want it if God's not in the mix. I always say that, because if it's up to me, I'm gonna mess it up. Like, I need God to be at the center of this. So anything that I ask for or I want, I always ask God, like, is this what you have for me? So when it happens, I'm like, okay. So I had went through a bad breakup in 2016 with my high school sweetheart, and I had been praying. I said, God, I want to work on me. Like, I had always been in a relationship, and I'm like, God, I want to be able to love myself. Like, I don't want to have to feel like I need a companionship to feel like I'm complete. Like, I want to be complete by myself, like for Shakira. So 2017 was the year. That full year was the year that I just focused on myself. I was able to realize a lot of things that I wasn't able to see clearly because I was always in a relationship, and I was able to just learn me. What did I love to do? What did I like to do? And I was also able to just date. And when I tell young girls is now.
It's like having a full-time teacher with you at all times. Like, that's amazing.
I always tell them, like, make sure that you date before you commit yourself to anybody. And dating does not mean sleeping around with every person that you talk to. Dating simply means, like, just getting to know people, seeing what their interests are, seeing if y'all vibe together. So 2017 was my year to do that, and that's exactly what I did. And I have no regrets about it because it was one of the greatest years of my life. And I can honestly say I was able to accomplish so much within that year of just focusing on myself, closing on the house and buying a car and focusing on, teaching. And I was transitioning. It literally felt like an enlightenment moment. Like, I'm becoming even more of a woman. So